I think there's one thing that strikes me, because you and I, when we sit in a panel, we can sometimes become a bit cynical of things. But I will say here, reading into the new commission, reading into the energy commissioner, Dan Jørgensen, I think, as he just stated this morning, he needs to come up with a plan now that phase out completely the energy dependency or trading with Russia by 2027. You could see Germany has already done it. This year they will do somewhere around 10 gigawatt of onshore, and they will do a similar high number in offshore. We would not have been sitting here and guessed 10 gigawatt of onshore fully permitted and auctioned in Germany if we just go 18 or 24 months back, Steve. So I think here we got a lot of positives, and I think Germany here is leading the way in Europe. And you can sort of say there are a couple of other countries where they are reaffirming or changing their auction designs, and most recently saw Denmark doing the same in their failed offshore auction just being announced a week ago. So I think countries in Europe are now waking up to the fact we need a higher degree of independency in energy generation in Europe. And there's only one way of doing it, is actually increasing your capacity.
Henrik, let me bring in Spain and Portugal and the recent outages that we saw on power, because it does feel as though renewables may still have something to prove here. I know you have a big footprint in the Spanish market. There's still investigations ongoing around that outage, but one of the views is that, look, there was a huge reliance on renewables at the time when the power outage occurred. Any viewpoint about the sort of resilience we still need to see from renewables or changes to ensure that there is energy security?
I think, first of all, energy security means that you can run societies without having blackouts. That's stating the obvious. I also think here I will really, really encourage everyone to show just a bit of degree of statesmanship. All of the energy sources needs to work on a grid, and they need to work in parallel. But I've also seen, and this is always what happens, everyone are grasping quick root causes and blaming each other's. And I simply just don't want to go there, because until we know the root cause of why a grid can fail across Spain and Portugal, let's not second guess, and let's not try to blame somebody in cybersecurity, or let's blame individual energy sources, because there's no foundation for doing that. So therefore, Europe needs more energy, and we probably also need a stronger grid. That goes without saying. So I think from an isolated point, don't envy the Spanish energy minister, Sarah Augustin, which I know well. She's working through that, but let her work through it and then come back and saying, what was the root cause and how are we going to address it going forward? But that doesn't change with that in that country and in that area of the world, there is transmission between France, Spain, Portugal. And therefore, how do we strengthen that grid and how do we strengthen that transmission? Because there's only one advantage if we look 10 years ahead. That is creating a European EU where there is exchange of energy of different sources and different assets.
Henrik, let me come back to tariffs. Your outlook notes that tariffs are creating big challenges in the execution of your backlog, especially in the U.S. What do the tariffs mean for the outlook for electricity prices in the U.S.?
It only, as tariff is an added cost to the final solution, that only means one thing, that is that it has an increasing underlying effect on inflation and electricity. So that's stating the obvious. I haven't found any theory around the world that mitigates that. This is a kind of a zero sum in the sense of that unless you think that there's somebody that will just swallow tariffs and just forget about it, it doesn't work like that. So we know that it's also in the energy field. It's something that the energy field has done before, and therefore there are many of those ways where we can do that. But I will also just highlight, even the tariffs have been quite, have a degree of volatility in the quarter we came up, because the tariffs were not a set fact casted in the stone in terms of an amount. So we are still working around what are the tariffs, how do we mitigate it, and how do we also get the best entry point to the factories. And don't forget again, We got more than 5,000 people in the US, so we already have factories there. But there will be some components where it's just difficult to do all components and being 100% self-supplied in it.